Hello, in this example we'll want to write a really simple Redux based app. It's going to be React and Redux. So we have deleted everything we don't need and we've moved app to components. Now we're going to need a couple of folders/files. We're going to need our store, which we're going to place in stores, in a folder called stores. We're going to need some reducers, one reducer in this case. And we're going to have a list reducer.js. We're going to have an index.js. We're also going to need some actions. We're going to group our single action in one file, but we're going to have a actions folder and an actions file. Now we're ready to write everything. So the first thing we're going to need is our action, and our action is going to be really simple. So export function add note of some content, which is going to return an object which has a type, and we're going to write it directly here. So add note and a payload, and in this case payload is just going to be the content. Now this is going to trigger a change in the reducer, so let's write our reducer next. It's going to be, so this reducer is going to have an initial state, which is going to contain a series of nodes, and the reducer itself is going to be a function which is going to receive the state. We're going to start from initial state and an action, and it's going to return a new state based on the action type. We have two cases here, so add note and default. For default, we're just going to return the state, and for add note, we're going to return a new object. We're going to destructure the existing state, and then notes is going to be whatever the notes are already, and content. Now, assuming multiple reducers, we want to combine them. So we're going to say import combine reducers from Redux. And this is going to also import all our reducers. And then export default combine reducers of an object containing all of the reducers. Now this is going to be used in the store. So we're going to need create store from Redux. And we're going to say store is create store of something, of a reducer. We're going to say import reducer. This is the combined reducer. And this is going to be the default export of this file. Now, in order for the store to be visible in the application, we're going to go to index, and we're going to need a couple of things. We're going to need our store, and we're going to need something called the provider from, we're going to need the provider. This is going to be from React Redux. And we're going to nest our app in a provider tag, having the store our store. Now back to our app, the only thing that we need is to add our component. So we're going to say have a node list, which is going to contain a list of nodes and the form to add a node. This is going to be used in the app. So we're going to just import it first. And here we're going to have just the node list. Now for the node list, first of all, it's going to be a regular component. And it's going to return a div containing, on the one hand, the list of nodes, and on the other, a form to add a new node. Obviously, we don't yet have the data, so we're going to have to import a couple of things. So we're going to say import, so use selector from React Redux, and we're also going to need shallow equal and use dispatch so we can dispatch our actions. We can send our actions to the reducers. Right, so and from React we're going to need use state because we're going to have a form. So first, to get our reducer state, we're going to say node list selector is with state.list.nodes. We're also going to need our actions, so import add node from actions. Now the actual list of nodes we're going to get with use selector of node list selector, and we're going to know when it's changed via shallow equal. Then we're going to, since we have a form, our nodes are only going to have a content, so we're going to have content set content, and we're going to start the state from an empty string. Like I said, we're also going to want to dispatch an action, so const dispatch is use dispatch. Now for the list of nodes, we're just going to map the nodes based on a function of element and index. We need the index because they don't have a unique ID. So the key is going to be the index and the value is going to be just E. As for adding a node, we're going to just need an input text. Let's use a placeholder. And when this changes, we're going to update the state. So a handler based on event, which says set content of event target value. Then we also need the button, and the button when clicked is going to dispatch the add node action. So we're going to say this has a handler which does dispatch add node of content. And that's it. Let's just test our app and see if we've missed anything. We're in X restart. Let's start this. So it's now starting. And we have content is not defined. I think we have a typo. This reducer. S is not content, it's action.payload. So we can now add a test action. A test node, sorry. And we can see that it's working.